So thanks, first of all, to the Pittsburgh Sitecore user group for inviting me to do this talk. I really appreciate that. My name is Himadri Chakrabarti. I am a Sitecore MVP, technology MVP. I've been working with Sitecore for the last 8 or 9 years, and been MVP for quite some time. And I work in a company called Nishtech, which is a Cincinnati-based company. We do Sitecore platform implementation and other stuff. So I'm going to talk about building a static website using Sitecore Experience Edge and Nextjs. I've been working with this technology for last few months and kind of started with Content Hub and in progression, landed in Experience Edge. So this talk is more my experience and how it actually evolved from where I started and now where I am. And in the way, I will talk about a lot of this technology, which are software as a service, and hopefully, at the end you will get some of the learning that I learned from my journey, and I hope that that will be useful for you. So I will. So what I'm going to do, I'll quickly show first the site I built using this technology stack, and then I'll dive into architecture, how I built it, starting from the prototype and using Experience Edge. So we'll go step by step and see everything. And on the way, I'll show the code and I'll do the demo as I move forward. So let's look at the website. Let's see, where is my, okay. I'll pick up this. So if you have used Vercel before, you will be familiar with this. This is my Vercel console. And these are application I deploy in Vercel, and the one that I'm going to show you this. This is the site. Some of you know, I'm kind of enthusiast about photography, anything related to photography. I myself take photos and I'm very much interested about camera and designer of camera. So I thought that is a good idea to build something that I like. So I built this site, and this is actually a static site, as you know, and it is hosted in Vercel Edge. So this is just HTML, and when I move forward, so from one place to other, navigate, this is really actually rendering the HTML, and these are all cached. So basic structure of the site is actually there are some navigation here, and you can go to different section. Right now I am in photography, and this is kind of a blog site. This is the list of blogs in the site. And then I can go to the blog that I want to read. It will take me to that blog and show the detail about the blog. Similar to that, every section has the same structure. If I go to camera, this actually show me camera related information. Only thing that is different is actually about which is about me. Is not a blog. Okay, so this is the structure of the site. So how did I start? I actually I myself not, I do not see myself as like a front-end developer. My experience is a lot on the back-end integration and things like that. Then, like the way technology is moving and industry is going, is just very difficult to not do the front-end development anymore. Everything is moving towards like a lot of things are moving towards the front end. So I thought that I probably need to learn a little bit about it. So what I did is actually I started with a prototype. So let me see. So I started with prototype. I challenged myself. I was like, can I build a site from scratch? Can I really work on like CSS and stuff? I never worked on it. So I spent some time and built this prototype using SAS and like HTML. And on the way, I learned a lot of things. And I think that it is very useful to learn those, because when you are working with Next.js, a lot of these things will come up. And really, not as a front-end developer, like, if you really want to be an architect, if you are doing architecture, you really need to have some knowledge about how things are working in the front end. Okay, so it was a good experience for me to like code in CSS and HTML. And on the way, I also learned like a lot about HTML itself. I didn't know. So anyway, so I used this as a prototype, and I used the live server to basically host it. And live server is really a good option if you are doing prototyping. Basically, you can host it from VS Code, and then you can like see your prototype. You can move between like pages. These are all HTML that I built from that. And there are a lot of options in the live server that you can use. I would highly recommend that you look into that as a development tool. Okay, so that's enough about like prototyping. I do not want to spend much time on the prototyping, because that's not what we are going to talk today. So let's stop this. So the next thing that I thought is actually, okay, I want to build this site, and I think the data will be in some sort of content management system, and I will be building this site based on that content management system, which will actually provide the data. But not necessarily I have to actually have a content management system. I was targeting mainly like a headless system, right? And if I am thinking about using a headless system, basically what I'm going to get from the system is actually a bunch of JSON. I will be using some sort of API, either GraphQL or either REST API, and I'm going to get some data from the headless system. And basically, I will take that data, manipulate that data, and build my site. So without having a content management system, I can build the site. Obviously, I don't want to build my site without using content management system. But to start with, I started with Json Server. Json Server, if you don't know, is actually a NPM utility NPM package. So you can run Json Server, and it will actually give you the API endpoints and return you like data. So what I did is actually I created a database using like just a JSON database, and then use the JSON server to host it, and it creates all these endpoints. And then I worked on my next JS application using JSON server as the data source using that API. So I built the application without any content management system first. And to do that, I had to actually, so I'll come to this part later, but basically first thing I need to do is I need to run the JSON server. Okay, so sorry. So I'm running JSON server on the localhost port 400, and it actually, if you see here, it has all these endpoints. I have banner, about, menus, topics, blogs. These are the endpoints that I have in the JSON server. And this is nothing but this JSON file, which I used for creating the data and those endpoints. Okay, once my server is running, I can go to my application, and I will come to this part later, how I did it. But basically, I can use JSON server as my CMS, and I can run the application using that. So my application is running now on the local host, and I have to switch to this. So this is still coming up. So now this is the same site, which is now running on JSON server. So I can, basically the data and everything is coming from there. So I can change the menu, navigate to camera, and it's a little slow, but it's actually accessing the JSON server and getting the data and images and things from there. If you see here, as I do the query, you will see that JSON server is returning this data here. I clicked on it actually got the menu, footer, and page intro and all those, and kind of showing how much time it took. So that was the first step to actually integrate my application to a data source. Okay, and on the Next.js side, I had to take my prototype, and I'm not going to talk too much about it. This all code are shared in GitHub, so you can take a look. But as you know, in Next.js, you will be using the file-based routing, and I have all the pages here, and each section, for example, photography has slugs, and under that I have the index pages, and then the components are all in the component folder, and I use the good thing about Next.js is actually uses it supports SCSS. So you can do that at the module level. So I took the style from the prototype, which was one big file, and I took that styling and put it in different module level SCSS. So this is for my banner, and it is only for the banner, and you can separate the style in that way. And then there is actually a global style, which will be in the style folder. If you have anything global, like, since it is SCSS, I actually global level color and styling I created there. That's pretty much the structure of the Next.js application. There are few things I will talk as I go. But initially the structure of the application was like that. I'm just using the Next.js component to get to the data and getting the data from there. Okay, so that's my JSON server approach. Now, next is actually, I moved this to Content Hub. Okay, so in Content Hub, basically, I took all the data from JSON server, and whatever I want to do, I created the content in Content Hub, and I worked on my Next.js application to use Content Hub and using the Content Hub API. I'm going to talk about the API a little bit in a bit, but basically the way it is actually, Content Hub has JavaScript SDK. You can use that to those as API SDK and get the data from there. And you basically have your code in GitHub, and you connect your Vercel deployment with your GitHub code. And when you are generating the static site, Vercel will run build your code and generate the HTML and push them in the Vercel Edge, which is the CDN system. And from there, it is actually static site. So you can access from Vercel. So there is no server-side rendering or anything. This is purely static site. And good thing about Vercel is actually, since it is pushing to CDN, it actually can render things from different region, as you know. That's the common thing about any CDN. Okay. So the integration option in Content Hub. Content Hub provides REST API and web client SDK, JavaScript SDK. So these are the three options, used to be if you are working with Content Hub. There was no, if you do not have Experience Edge, there was no GraphQL API, no preview API as such. So the API that I used is actually JavaScript SDK to get to the data. But the thing is, since Experience Edge is here, if I have to build the site, I'm not only going to build the site based on Content Hub, because it's not efficient for omnichannel development. Okay, Experience Edge provides so much. So when you add Experience Edge, it will give you the option to use GraphQL API. As you know, GraphQL API is you get what you want. If you are using for omnichannel, if you want less data, you can use GraphQL to do that. So my opinion about it, just using Content Hub is not probably a good idea. You should go with Experience Edge, which brings up the point, if you want to use Experience Edge, you need additional license. In addition to Content Hub, you need to have actually Experience Edge license. And there could be I don't know about this, I'm guessing that there are additional cost for using the Experience Edge service, not only license, because you are basically using Content Hub as well as the Experience Edge. so I think the question may come is like, then what is this API used for the Content Hub? Like, what is the use of web client SDK? So besides just the website, building the website, there are a lot of things we need to do in Content Hub, and that's where you can use the API. So if you want to load, like, bulk load data in the Content Hub, you will be probably using the web client SDK. If you want to work with .NET, if you are good in JavaScript, you can use JavaScript SDK, and there is always the option for using REST API. So I think that's the biggest use of Content Hub APIs. Okay, so I'll just go quickly in the content structure, and here I will actually give you the bad news I was talking about. The thing is that our Content Hub, actually our Experience Edge, is now broken. We had, we started with some problem with the images, and we contacted Sitecore, and they actually created another box here, but oh God, it's even not running now. Okay, hang on 1 minute. I'll ask Suresh to run it. Sorry. Back to, I really wanted to actually show you the structure of the content in the Content Hub, but we can come back to that later. But there are other services like, GraphQL and things are still running, so I can still show you things. When it comes back, I'll show you. Okay, so the Content Hub implementation of the static website was fine. Then when I was going to actually use Experience Edge, I started thinking about the architecture, and I thought that, okay, if it's really a headless, so I can think about Content Hub or any headless commerce, not commerce, but a content management system as as another service. So in a composable DXP, you can think of content management system is just another service. You can treat that way, and as you can switch the different services in the DXP, you can also switch the content management service. Why we do that? I'm not I'm not saying that you should do that. Basically, that is the way you can actually look at your architecture. Basically, in every architecture, you try to make it as decoupled as possible, so you can replace different services in your architecture. Even if I am not actually replacing my content management system, if I keep that way, it's actually a good architecture. Okay, so if you look at the traditional architecture for traditional CMS, and you build the web application, CMS is core part of it, and then you add services outside of it, if you are adding headless commerce like Order Cloud, it will talk to Order Cloud as kind of a service. and several different services you can, like box server or search or whatnot, you can add it. But if you look at content management system as a service, then your content management system is not actually part of your web application that you are building. It's not core part of it. It's just another service, headless service, and you are talking to that service using the API. So once, like, thinking that way, then I thought that, like, the way we can build this application is that that I can switch the content management system or whatever services I am using. So, and this is the part I think. So I actually choose to work with Contentful as another headless service, and I think Jeff is like, what?
That's perfectly fine.
All right.
I believe from the composable aspect, it's good to see it. Like, it should be pluggable with different CMS systems. So I would build something specific and try with different.
Yeah, that's my thought, actually. I mean, as an architect, I will approach that way. Even if I, like, I'm using Experience Edge, I would like to use that way. So the way I thought about it is actually, okay, I built for the Content Hub. Okay, I want to build it for another CMS, which is, like, I choose Contentful, which is another headless system. And then I can, like, build this same application, and I can switch it between the services, and rest of it is pretty much same. Like, it is doing the same thing. Vercel is, as I deploy code in the GitHub, and then Vercel is building that. And now I can switch between Content Hub and Contentful, and Vercel will build, and basically I can generate the site. So to do that, I had to think it. I had to think it from the like, inversion of control design principle point of view. Okay, so dependency injection. Okay, so if I want to really decouple things, dependency injection is what, like, we need to use. So I was thinking, like, how can I do that in JavaScript? And it's really difficult to do that in JavaScript. So initially, the application was built in Nextjs and JavaScript. So I moved everything from JavaScript to TypeScript. And I have to tell you, that was like quite a challenge, because TypeScript is not, like, forgiving, and it's not, like, easy. So when I moved to TypeScript, there are so many issues and things. So finally, like, I could solve them, but still I had to actually disable strict checking. Okay, because there are like, two places where it would not compile, but the application running fine, but it is not going to compile unless I disable that. So I had to do that in the TS config, and then I could actually build it. Okay, so once I have the TypeScript, then I can think of, I thought about, like, how I'm going to build it using the dependency injection. So the way I looked into is that any service, I need actually a API helper interface. Okay, so basically any service I use, it will implement API helper, which is, like, either Content Hub or Contentful, whatever. Okay, so I created a API helper interface, and basically right now I have Json Server API helper, Content Hub Server API, Content Hub API helper, and Contentful API helper, which are the implementation of that. And then I used a package called T-Syringe. I don't know what the meaning of that name. but it is actually built by Microsoft. It's a TypeScript library, which actually you can use for dependency injection. So I use that package to handle the dependency injection. So that package, basically what it is doing is it's actually an injector. And I have two services, one is page component service and page layout service. So one is to build the page, other is to build the component. So it's injected these services, it creates these services and it creates this service, and then it injects that in those page layout service and component service. And then I go to this get static prop helper. This is actually the code which build the static pages. So in that get static prop helper, I register what API helper I want to use. Okay. So basically, I will jump on the code now and show you that part I was talking about is when I change it, and I don't know where that is. Sorry, give me 1 minute. I think this is the one. Okay, yeah. So this is the component pages and this helper, and this, as I said, this get static prop helper is basically, it does create all the it has all the functions which create the static page, get about page static props, basically about data for the about page, and it gets that data. So the main thing here is actually, as far as the dependency injection goes, this container says what is my API helper? Okay, this registered the API helper, and as I change, right now I have Json Server API helper here. If I change it to if I change it to Contentful Apollo client API helper, now it is going to switch to that. I don't know if this is running or not. This is still running. So so if I save it, now if I go to this was my, okay, I'll just type HTTP localhost 3000. So now this is coming from Contentful. Okay, before this it was coming from that JSON server. Okay, so if I change it to I change it to say Experience Edge API, Apollo API client, you will see that it is failing because our server is having problem. So there will be some error. As I said, our server is broken, but it's just saying the source for the data or API is actually different. This is coming from the, as you can see that this says the field all m content, whatever that number is not present, or there is no data. So this is coming from Experience Edge. Okay, and I can actually change my service as needed using that architecture. So this registration is actually what driving that. Okay, I need to move quickly. So next actually come the Experience Edge. Okay, so now, as you said, I am not going to go to the code again and show you. I could actually change to any service. This is just the architecture diagram when I add Experience Edge into it. Okay, so Experience Edge comes with a lot of good stuff. So Experience Edge gives you, like, the GraphQL endpoint for the Content Hub APIs, and you can do the preview. You can see the delivery data, you can see the preview data. Okay, so the upper part here is actually like, when you add Experience Edge to it, the greatest thing about Experience Edge is actually it like, caches all your data, GraphQL or whatever delivery data that you are getting from the system. It will be cached in the CDN, and it's really fast. Although, like, for a static page generation, it probably does not matter too much because static file is like, I will generate once and it will be served by Vercel. But when you have really dynamic data, then you can get that from here. So then that goes to the Vercel, and Vercel actually loads that to the to their CDN. Only part here is that I added the Experience Edge system in the solution. So what I need to do, I had to just add another service, which is like, another implementation of API helper. And once I added that and use, like, GraphQL Apollo client, or I can use Fetch. In fact, I use both to create that service. Now everything is coming from Experience Edge. So those are the service what I created here. So let me see. Suresh is saying, like, this is up now. I am not going to spend too much time. I will be short of time if I do that. But basically, this is all our broken. I'm sorry, I cannot show you the real data from here. But basically, yeah, you can see that all images and everything are broken. Okay, it's just still booting probably. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So Vercel demo, basically, I was going to show that here. So let's quickly look at the content structure. How I did it is created all the content here in the Content Hub. Basically, all these are like, for example, Dublin Walking Bridge is actually a blog, and it has all the blog related data. And basically, there are public image link in the blog. So we are using all those from using GraphQL. So I'll show that, but here are the, like, the cover image link and image TLT and, like, whatever for that. And the way it is organized is basically the content collection, and it is divided into different content collection. For example, for camera related blogs, all goes to the, like, camera collection. And you can actually add, the other thing here is actually I have an action, and I can trigger this action to call a webhook from Vercel. And I added that action, and it calls that API and start a version, like, a build in Vercel. So I don't know if still works or not, because this thing is so much broken. So when obviously it didn't work, Let me go to see the other thing or not. Okay. I'm hoping that this will come up. Yeah. So you can see that in the Content Hub, I added action, and there is actually a webhook for this. And when I do that, basically started the build in Vercel. Once it is built, Vercel is actually going to push it to the edge, and then it will be ready with the site. So there are a lot of things. We do not have so much time actually talk about Next.js here, like incremental site generation and things like that. And you can just look into that of your own, or I have the blog there, and you can also look there too. Okay, so what else? So how I actually, we have 13 more minutes. So how we are talking about Experience Edge, right? And how I'm going to actually administer the Experience Edge. Okay, there are a lot of things, like you are going to create the API key to access the delivery data, or preview key for accessing the delivery data. How that works. There is no, like, so far there is no UI or anything for working with Experience Edge. So APIs are available, but this one picture actually gives you the full picture of how Experience Edge works, or how, if you want to actually manage experiences, how you are doing that. Okay, first of all, anything you want to do is actually you have to do the authentication before you do that, and that is run through a Auth0 server. And the URL I have is actually this URL, which is somewhere in EU looks like. So this URL is actually going to return you a JW token. So once you have that JW token, you can use that to do different admin API call. Okay, so, and for that you have to actually use this API endpoint, which is API admin version 1. And things that you can do is actually you can clear the cache. You can, like, you can change the settings, like, time to live, how long you want your data to be cached, like, is it 4 hours or you want it in 2 hours. So all those things you can use admin API to do. And then you can use API key endpoints to create API or revoke API, or, like, rename API. All those things you can do through the API key endpoints, you're managing your API key. And then delivery data, I guess you know what the concept of delivery data versus preview data. Preview data is something that you have not published yet. Okay, and delivery data is you already have published. So Experience Edge provides the delivery data to you, unless you are looking for a preview data. So when you create your key, you can mention that this key is for preview and this key is for delivery. So if you use the delivery key, you have to use this URL, which goes to the delivery platform and gets the data from there. Okay, this GraphQL URL. If you want to use preview, it actually goes to your Content Hub system and get the data from there using this GraphQL endpoint. So doing how you can do that, there are a couple of options, and I would highly recommend you to actually watch Alistair Dennis session, on-demand session in this symposium. He actually really showed how this thing works in his session. But what he did is actually he used, like, curl to do all the API call. you can use any sort of tool like, Postman, or like, curl or whatever to call these APIs. So, so you can actually, let me show you. Okay, where is my Postman? Yeah, I found it. So I actually shared a public Postman collection. So this collection is built based on like, what API are available now. Basically, as I was saying, like, if you want to use anything, you have to actually use, first you have to get an admin token. So if you send to that, it gets this admin token, this JWT token. And then once you have that, you can use the admin API. For example, if you want to see the settings. So this is the admin API endpoint, and then you can send that using that token. You can see the settings from the system. Like, my content cache TTL is 4 hours. So if I want to update the settings, I can just go here and I say, like, I want it to be 15 minutes. So I can do that, and it updated it, and now my settings are changed. So that is one. Now you can see that this change. And then there are APIs other than admin API. You can actually see what key, all the keys APIs are what you can use. So let's say I want to see all my keys that I generated for this system, and it will show me using this API. These are my keys in the system. Basically, pretty much anything you want to with the Experience Edge, you have to actually do that using the API. And you can actually take this Postman collection is kind of built using the environment variable, and you can do that. Other option, which I'm going to actually probably publish pretty soon, probably next week, is actually you can use. This is a CLI I'm working on. So this is actually a command line tool. The idea is same. Basically, it's a Node.js application, and it's kind of work like a npm package, and basically do the same thing that you have seen in the Postman. So this is coming. I'll be publishing this pretty soon. Okay, that's how I already Postman demo is done. Okay, Experience Edge Graphql. So this is that build is done. Okay, so how I do the Graphql query. As I said, unfortunately, our system is broken, but basically, if you want to query the delivery system, you will be using GraphQL. And this is the structure of the Experience Edge GraphQL queries. Okay, so you either get all collection using all m underscore whatever it is, or you can get like, one content, like here I'm getting the blog using the ID. I'm sorry, this doesn't work. If it was working, then you could see like, all the documentation and schemas here. But maybe another time when we have the server working for us. So this is the delivery system, like, playground, GraphQL playground, and then there is one for the preview, which will like, you'll be using for the preview API. and then you have to actually add your key, API key, XGQL token API key, which I just showed the API key. This is one of them. Okay. So that's the okay. I finished whatever I wanted to talk about. My blog, you can go. Most recent blogs are based on this. And then I have all the code in my GitHub repository. I highly recommend, as I said, like in Alistair's talk, you will learn so much from his talk. Okay, I don't know, we have 3 more minutes. I wanted to finish it within an hour. Question?
It's a pretty good talk. Thank you. Couple of questions I had related to the Experience Edge. The Content Hub does not support GraphQL. Is my understanding correct?
Okay, I have to actually ask Jeff here, probably we know. The preview API is coming from Content Hub. I'm not sure, like, if that coming through the Experience Edge or not.
So Content Hub itself doesn't provide any GraphQL endpoint, but Content Hub Edge endpoint is providing that GraphQL endpoint.
Okay. Yeah, there is no, like, API as such, like, Java REST API is available, but if you want to go to the preview API, you have to have, like, the content. If you see the URL for the preview API, it actually says sandbox dot, like, whatever, stylelab.io. So I guess that somewhere related to Content Hub. Any other questions?
One other thing yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I got a question. Does Experience Edge provide a personalization capabilities? Because I just had some thought about in somewhere I read and had a discussion before where they don't provide personalization, and then Uniform seems to be the provider that does that. Is that correct?
So Experience Edge is actually a delivery system. It's all data. So personalization is like, if you want to use personalization, you can use, like, service like Boxsaver. And in case of, like, Uniform, they actually use age personalization. So it's kind of different things, like, Experience Edge is, like, concerned with only rendering the data. Is that right, Jeff?
Yes, and there's also a distinction because in your talk, in your session here, you talked about Content Hub Edge, which is different than Experience Manager Edge. So there's 2 Edge products provided by Sitecore at the moment. So of course, in Content Hub, there's no concept of personalization in the data, and it's not providing any layout as well. While Experience Management Edge, XM Edge, will push all the items data into the edge, as well as the layout service representation of your pages with layout to the edge as well, but only the default version. As you said, there's no personalization in there. For personalization, we acquired Boxsaver and rename it Sitecore CDP and Sitecore Personalization Projects. That will be the solution provided by Sitecore for personalization in the cloud.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you.
Because there are 2 parts of Experience Edge. One is XM and the Content Hub. So these are 2 different Edge.
Yeah, we explored that option. I could fill in a little bit on the Uniform side of things. Uniform, how that works is, like, it pushes the roles, like the personalization roles, and that also lives on the edge. Edge in the sense they're using Netlify service, and that is capable of doing some personalization on the fly at the CDN edge level. So that can help you out if you're looking for that option.
Yeah, I think it uses some sort of query string to handle the personalization from the edge. Good.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Any other question?
I wanted to say that it's a very good session you provided, Himadri. I was super impressed by the complexity of your solution with all the dependency injection. I myself are building a demo right now with Sitecore CDP, and I thought about a replacement for, let's see, I want a different personalization engine, but it's nowhere as elaborated as your example. And I might steal your TC ring configuration. I'll look at that and I might implement something based on that library because I find it very elegant and well built.
No problem. Yeah, I'm that's why we share it, right? It's all in public in the community. So I'll be happy if you can use that. That's the purpose. Yeah, I looked at a couple of other dependency injection package, but I thought that this one is really probably work, and it worked. So
yeah, and I really like that you used different providers like Contentful, Content Hub Edge, and JSON provider. So your example is very complete, and it shows well how we can build a site that is for true DXP.
Thank you.
More than a theoretical, it's more like an actual working sample. So pretty good. Most of the time it's just a concept, but I've not seen something like fully functional.
Exactly.
You tried it yourself.
I just feel like I can steal the POC and show it in the client. Just kidding.
No problem. These are all like, shared publicly, right? And I mean, you can show this as an example that what is possible. Okay. It's not like, I don't feel like it is a production level application or anything, but you can do this. That's what actually is important, I think. And
probably add a slide for Nishtech, so he'd be happy about that.
That's okay. We can talk. We can negotiate about that later.
I have a question, Jagdish here. I mean, can we also use GraphQL mutations as well to manipulate the data of the Experience Edge?
No, I don't think mutation, mutation is not there yet, right, Jeff? Actually, if you look at the documentation, you will probably not find mutation. And I think the purpose here is actually that, Experience Edge is really for reading data. If you want to create something, you will go to the Content Hub and create your content there. Also, if you are working with XM, you will be going to XM to actually create your content. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right. I don't think there's mutations for Content Hub Edge, but today in Slack, I heard about something related to XM Edge. I'm not sure it was mutations, subscription queries. No, that's not the same thing.
No,
so there's no mutations as far as I know.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
but subscription will be useful, I mean, basically, yeah, I mean, actually real-time data changes and things. So, yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Have any other questions?
Hey, Venu's here. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge on this POC, especially it's very useful, especially, when I was dialed into the Content Hub only all year. This actually gives more full better picture to implement any other POCs, from the front end applications in Jamstack. So my question is around what kind of tool chains that we use for the DevOps, for all this composable DXP world. I know we have traditional cloud and our GitHub tools and all that. So what would be our best tool chain set for this type of headless implementation, do you guys think?
So I can talk about what I have used. This in case of Nextjs, it is actually very simple. It just takes you 5 minutes to actually set up the application. So, and everything is super, good thing about this is actually everything is free. So except Content Hub, if you are MVP, you have some discount and other things. But let's talk about the tool and things. So you need actually GitHub, and once you actually push your code in GitHub, you have to just go to Vercel, and you have to connect Vercel to your GitHub repository, and then you have VS Code where you are pushing your code from VS Code to GitHub. That's all. You just push your code from GitHub. Vercel immediately actually pick up the changes and compiles it and deploy it immediately. The other part of it actually in this kind of application is actually, it is not only code. When the data change, you want to also push that because you are generating static site, right? So if you are adding a blog, you need to regenerate your site, okay? So I couldn't actually talk about it because we do not have so much time, but in the Content Hub, and I showed you how I actually started a Vercel build from Content Hub. Basically, you can add action to Content Hub, and then you can trigger that action using a operation or kind of you add a script there, and it calls that action and basically starts that action is nothing but a webhook that you have to the Vercel, and it will start the build for you. So to your question, as much as I can think of right now is actually, those are the only thing that I work with. Nothing more than that.
Sounds good. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I'm saying in that case, it's like Content Hub, GitHub, Nextjs project pushed to Vercel. Is that right?
Yeah, well, from Content Hub, we are starting the build because data has changed.
Yeah.
But code is still the same code.
Yeah. What I meant is more like a tool set aspect of it. So I'm saying Content Hub is your source, and then you have GitHub where you have your Nextjs application.
Right.
And then Vercel is more like your provider or the CDN edge. Exactly. So anytime the content changes or your code changes, you still have to do the build, which eventually generates the static.
Yeah, you could get rid of that rebuilding the application on Vercel when the data change with ISR, which is incremental static revalidation from Next.js. That when the static page loads for a customer client in this browser, there's a check if the data is the latest across your provider. So it could be Content Hub Edge, could be Contentful API, whatever the provider you use. It checks the freshness of the data. If the latest data has changed, it regenerates automatically a static page for the new data and stores it in the edge. And then all the next requests will have the newly built page, and you don't have to rebuild the whole website.
Yeah, so if I can add to that, actually, Jeff, So ISR is there in my POC. ISR is there. Okay. But the ISR will kick off only when someone is actually going to that page.
Yes.
Okay. So, and in the first time, they will not see the change because they will still see the stale version. And basically, they don't want to show the most current data because it will start a build. Like it is an incremental build, but it will still start a build. So they show the stale version, but they actually also do the regeneration. And after that, if someone comes, and then they will see the latest data. So, but the reason I actually added it in the Content Hub to start the build is that, like, I made a lot of changes in the content, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, if someone will access that page or not. Now I am ready to push the data, so I can do it from there.
Yeah, that's
the
a good
issue
use
that
case.
I faced in Content Hub was that, like, in the Content Hub, action is associated with trigger, and it is like, as you know, if you are changing something, some data, it will immediately call the action. Okay, and I did not want to do that, because that means that every time I'm changing a data, it will start a build in Vercel. So you can do that. Actually is an entity operation, using entity operation. So you can add a entity operation and say, like, I want to call that action when someone clicked on this button. So that's kind of like, gives you the control when you want to start the build.
Can I ask this dumb question? So if that is the case, rather triggering an entire build, why don't you visit that page?
Well, it's not on me, right? Oh, no. I see what you're saying. You are saying, like, okay, yeah, we can actually create a service to actually go through every page.
No, not exactly every page. I'm saying, like, if you're working on one particular news page or something, then you just visit that. So the incremental will take care of it. So you're not taking the hit of rebuilding the entire application. So
actually, you are partially right, because in ISR is actually you set a time. So if you say 3600 second, that means that you want to.
Yeah, after that point, it's going to do the health check, right, for the page. So you're saying, like, still it has to wait for that particular time. You're not doing it like right away.
Right.
Okay, your point.
So
okay.
it will say when last it was built. Okay. So that can happen.
Okay. And Jeff, is that the ISR is like the new feature that they came up with, right? Because a lot of people were complaining about the build time with Next.js.
Probably it's already there for a couple of versions, at least version 10 of Next.js, but I don't know the history before that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not initially, then they have added it later. I think it was before 10. If I remember.
Probably.
Yeah.
I follow the updates since 11.
No. Yeah, it's the Next.js is very, I would say, like, very cleverly designed, and, like, really it's a pleasure to work with Next.js, I would say. Like, not so much. I was not so much fan of React before.
Hi, Himadri. Just before you mentioned that for the orchestration to push like a change to Next.js, you mentioned from Content Hub to Next.js, you mentioned there's like a webhook you could configure to trigger like that change. Is it?
Yeah, so I can actually quickly maybe show you. If you go to Vercel, so I cannot type. So you have to go here, and if you go to settings, I think it's in the Git. So here you have to come and you have to actually declare a hook. Okay, you have to create a hook. Basically, this is nothing but a URL. and you will take this and you will go to Content Hub. I'm sorry.
Mm.
You know where the action is, right? In the Content Hub, there is
Yeah.
those actions, and
Okay.
you open the action, and one of the actions is actually API action. So this is a deploy block content, and I can show you, like, here, this is really slow. Here, you can just put the API endpoint here, and this is going to make the call for you.
For the action, yeah.
Yeah, so
Makes
yeah,
sense.
you can, yeah, so then it will start the build.
Thank you, Himadri. Yeah, great presentation as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
I have one more question, Jagdish here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, does it provide a graphical interface for our instance to query?
GraphQL interface.
Yeah,
Okay, can you actually tell me a little bit more about?
Sure. Okay. Let's say we have the content, in our instance. So let's say a news page or product page, and does we have a GraphQL interface where we can query that particular collection to that instance from that instance?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all that, and you need the Experience Edge for that.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, and once you have the Experience Edge, then you can actually use GraphQL to get all this data, right? Like here, you can see the Content Hub objects are declared this way, aim_content_blog. So basically, you can use the query, GraphQL query, to get the content. And yeah, I mean, basically that's what I did actually in the not this one. Oops, sorry. So this contentful this is and this code is actually in the GitHub, so you can take a look. These are all GraphQL, and all GraphQL queries are declared here, X age queries. All the queries are coming. Actually, I define the queries separately, and then using that from the system, from the code. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.